Are you a fan of Oblivion mods? And if you are a fan of mods, how would you like to be able to create your own Oblivion mods without needing any sort of prerequisite skills or any sort of 3D modeling software or anything like that? You can create some pretty basic mods for the Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion pretty easily. So without further ado, I'm going to show you guys how to create wacky little mods like this, as well as some other mods that might be a little bit more useful. Now, the first step here is you're going to need to get yourself the Oblivion Elder Scrolls construction set. There are two different construction sets. There's the Morrowind construction set and the Oblivion construction set, so you need to make sure you're getting the correct one. Construction set used to be supplied with the game. It would come as a separate CD. They now no longer really include it with the game, and you can't really get it off of their website anymore like you used to be able to. So now the only true way to get the construction set, aside from having somebody send the files to you, is to go to Nexus Mods and install their version of the construction set, which should be compatible with the Steam version. Any version of the game should be compatible. For the most part, it should be about the same as installing it from the CD. You basically just install it into the correct directory and it should work. I originally got Oblivion from the disc back in the day, so I actually have the construction set CD, so that's how I'm using it. But it should be the same construction set. There's not any differences. It's just Bethesda doesn't really readily supply it to the gamers anymore, but you're going to need to download that first. Now, the next step obviously is going to be to run the Elder Scrolls construction set once you get it installed. And when you first run it, you're going to get a whole bunch of blank stuff. There's nothing you can do here until you go here and you go to the data files and you select the data files you wish to alter. The most important one here is obviously going to be the Oblivion master file. Unless you want to edit stuff from Shivering Isles, then you should of course enable the Shivering Isles. And then finally there's the Knights of the Nine DLC as well. For most things in game, Oblivion and Shivering Isles should cover it. And if you want to change up some of the Knights of the Nine stuff, you might want to add Knights of the Nine to that list. It says you have not set an active file. Do you wish to continue? The active file doesn't really matter. I believe the active file thing is for if you wanted to change, like if I wanted to change one of these mods, I could select one of these and then set it as the active file so that any changes happen directly to that file. This isn't something you should be doing with your DLC files anyway, so do not set an active file. Wish to continue, yes, doesn't really matter. If you get a little like pop-up thingy with like errors, just do like yes to all or whatever. I didn't get it this time, but the first time I ran it I did, so it may or may not happen to you. And so we've got a few things. We've got the object window, we've got the cell view, and we've got the render window. The render window and the cell view window kind of go together. I think the render window theoretically works for more than just viewing cells, but the main thing it's going to be used for, so if you wanted to like edit the actual world itself or buildings or interiors, that sort of thing, you would use the cell view and you would select the thing you want to change. You got the list of all of the like items and effects and NPCs and things like that. Not super familiar with the controls, and this is getting a little bit more advanced than I'd like to show right now, but if you're feeling up to changing any of this stuff, it's worth messing with. You can add items to the world, add items to chests, add chests to dungeons, that sort of thing. So you can just sort of edit the world on the fly. Slightly more advanced than I'd like to show you guys, but it's still there if you guys want to try to tackle that. The main thing we're going to be focusing on here today is going to be the object window, and then things like character and gameplay, but mostly character here. So let's go to gameplay just so we can cover magic effects really quickly. Magic effects are going to show you basically every magical effect in the game. These are not individual spells. These are the actual magical effects that make up those spells, you know, like flame damage, that sort of thing. You could change their base cost, so you can make them cheaper for any given spell that has that effect. You could change their given school, so you could change things from like restoration to destruction, things like that. But you can also do things like change the projectile speed, so you can change how fast the magic spells move. You can change the actual like spell effect, what it looks like when it comes out. You can also change the actual sound itself, so if you don't like the way spell sounds, you could change it to a different spell sound, or theoretically you could make your own spell sound, but I don't even know how to do that, so I'm not even going to tackle that in this video. Piggybacking off of that, the actual spells themselves are going to be in the object window, so you're going to have spells here as well as your leveled spells. You can also do the abilities, lesser powers, that sort of thing. So this is going to have every single spell in the game, including the like powers and abilities of your star signs. So that's pretty cool. You can change all of that stuff. So if you wanted to go to vampirism or something and change some of that stuff, you could get rid of the sun damage. You could just straight up delete the sun damage if you wanted to. No more sun damage, only the fun parts of being a vampire. How wonderful. We're going to go away from the object object window here for a second, and we're gonna go to the character stuff here, which is how I got the super giant red guard, as well as being able to edit things like hair and eyes and things like that. You can actually edit the races themselves. You can edit the skills, the classes, the birth signs, all of that. So we're gonna start with race. Obviously here we have a list of all the races. As you can see here, we have the different skill bonuses, so you can actually select which skills that you want a race to specialize in. So let's say you wanted red guards to be more of a mage build, you could set these skill bonuses to like restoration and destruction and things like that, and you could still be a red guard. In both Morrowind and Oblivion, you start with a pretty low movement speed, so you might want to do something like, let's just increase this like a little bit. On the subject of speed, it kind of ties in with the super giant red guard I made, but speed is actually directly related to height. So not only could you just change the height for fun, you could also just change the height as a way to make people faster, because the bigger you are, actually the faster your character moves, which is kind of ironic because wood elves are supposed to be one of the faster races, but they're the shortest, so they end up being the slowest race out of all the races. So kind of an interesting little factoid there. High elves end up being the fastest race, wood elves end up being the slowest. But yeah, you could change both the height and the weight. So the height is obviously going to affect your height. Weight is going to be basically how thick your character is, how wide they are. If you do not increase these in tandem, you will end up with like super weird skinny needles of characters, or if you like pump the weight too much, you'll end up with a big old blob of a character. You can have some fun with it, or you could just be like, yeah, I'd like my red guards to be a little bit taller, just a little bit. You can change their specials or whatever. So you go to your magic list or whatever. And I believe for that type of thing, you kind of just, you just drag them and drop them, and they should be added. It just goes to show you can theoretically add any of this stuff. Normal spells, powers, abilities, that sort of thing. You can just straight up add them here. And then one final thing that's going to be really important, you're going to notice that we have Dramoras, we have Golden Saints, we actually have Sheogorath himself. So you'll notice there's a few races here that you can't actually play as. But you can actually change that too. So we can go to something like the Dramora, and you got to go to the text data here. It's actually pretty hard to find unless you know where to find it. You go to text data. But anyways, you'll notice the little checkbox here that says playable. If you click that, it will become a playable race. Should theoretically be able to select that race at the beginning of the game. But that's going to be the majority of what you can do with the race editor. There are some other things you can do that are a little bit more advanced. Like you can actually go through and change the actual models and stuff. You can just swap out the actual face model data, that sort of thing. So that's going to be most of what you can do with the race stuff. We also have skills here, pretty straightforward. You have all the different skills. You can change their governing attributes. So if you wanted acrobatics to be strength like it was in Morrowind, you could do that. This here is going to be the experience gaining value. So this is how much experience you get from jumping. This is how much experience you get from falling, especially athletics. If you feel like a skill like athletics just takes too long to level up, what I like to do is just double these values. Set this to 6, set this to 8, and this just makes it so at any given time, athletics is raising twice as fast, which is not as overpowered as you would think it would be. It still takes a long time to get that to 100 naturally that way, but it actually feels like it's happening as you play the game, as opposed to like feeling like, oh, I gotta go and swim for a mile to get some athletics because I'm a little bit behind, right? So athletics is one of those skills I like to just kind of double. Not really a whole lot left to this area. It's really just that. You can change the governing attribute, you can change the specialization, and you can change the value of experience gained. So cool stuff, not a whole lot to it, but still pretty cool stuff. So here we have class. You can basically just change the preset classes. Not really super useful, but if there is, let's say the warrior class is pretty close to something you'd want, but maybe you want to have marksman thrown in there just for the hell of it. I don't know. If there's any classes that are like almost there, but not quite there, and you'd like them to just kind of default to whatever you want. But yeah, not a whole lot to that other than being able to change the skills and the primary attributes and specialization, that sort of thing. Lastly, from the character list, we have birth signs. So not a whole lot you can do with the birth signs, but you can add different spell effects to the birth signs or remove certain spell effects. Let's say one of your birth signs had like an effect you didn't like, you could take it off. If you wanted to add an effect, you can add an effect. I think for most of these, you're actually going to have to go to the spell itself to change it. So you're going to have to go to BS Warrior. For things like that, you're going to have to go to the actual spell itself to edit it. Yeah, you know, you could change this. If you're like, yeah, I feel like that's just not that great of an effect. I feel like it'd be slightly better if it was 15 instead of 10. You could do something like that. Again, kind of cheat, but you know, just little things you can do like that, right? Anyway, so that's going to be all the character stuff I want to cover. There is some world stuff like landscape editing, weather, that sort of thing. Like you can actually change the color of the weather. and like wind speeds, stuff like that. So kind of cool, I guess. But finally, we're gonna get into like sort of the meat and potatoes here. I guess the other stuff was pretty cool too, but here we can actually change just like all objects, containers, NPCs, that sort of thing. And we're gonna start with some items, I guess. So obviously you can change things like the weight of the weapon, you can change its value, its speed, how much damage it does, but there's some other fun stuff in here you can do too. Like you can change the enchanting ability of it, so you can add an actual enchantment to it, so you can make it do the same thing that like the Meares Razor does or something like that. You could give it like the Meares Razor effect if you wanted to. Enchantment is going to be, I think, its total enchantment value. You can also make it ignore normal weapon resistances, so that'll make it similar to a silver or daedric weapon where you can attack, you know, ghosts basically. You've got armor, which not a whole lot you can do with the armor, but your heavy and light classification. So if you wanted something to be light armor that's heavy armor or vice versa, you could do that. Of course, you could change the armor rating. You can make it a bit stronger, give it some more health, that sort of thing. Theoretically, you could change the speed of the arrows. I'm not sure if that actually makes them fly faster or not, but that is a thing you can change. Finally, here we got actors, we got creatures, as well as NPCs. So if there's anything you wanted to change about creatures, you could get like a goblin or something, and you could make him weaker, you could make him stronger, you could edit their inventory, that sort of thing. Here we go, base scale. So if you wanted to just make them huge or make them tiny, you could do something weird like that. Same thing kind of goes for NPCs. Change their inventory. I believe if you change how much money they have, that actually changes their ability to sell stuff. I don't know any shopkeeper names off the top of my head, so you could do things like change the fact that they check corpses. You could make it so they don't respawn, which would be crazy if you just went through and killed an entire town and the guards just never came back. You could change their skills, that sort of thing. Not a whole lot left to this section here. Of course, there's more here, but not all of it really matters as much. So anyway, so once you've changed some of the stuff you want to change, it's now time to save your mod. And so basically it should open up your data files automatically. We're just going to name it something like Supermod. I honestly don't even remember all the things I changed, but I changed some things for sure. And so the last thing we're going to do here is, well, first of all, we're going to get rid of Giant Guy because that's one we were using before. We're going to activate our super mod. You have to go to your data files and activate your mod, otherwise it's not going to work. So do that first and then hit play and you should be good to go. So anyways, first things first, we're actually going to start a new game just so we can check out that Dremora race that we selected. And we should be able to select Dremora here now. Dremora, Evil Daedra. So yeah, you got male. I don't know if they have a female Dremora. I hope this doesn't crash my game. Yep, all right, that crashed the game. There's no female Dremora, so don't try to switch to the female Dremora because it doesn't exist. That's so fucking weird. Oh, you know what though? What's he gonna say? He's gonna break the game? He just didn't say anything. He's got the good noises though. Why do I feel like the fucking dudes aren't gonna come? It seems like something you might actually have to wait until the end of the sewers to do, otherwise you might not actually be able to continue because there's nothing to trigger here. Yeah, so anyways, that is how you mod Oblivion. But yeah, not a whole lot to it. Those are just some of the basic things you can change in the game. It's all pretty easy stuff, and it's all pretty straightforward for the most part. Really just keeping it simple, being able to edit damage values, character values, things like that. All pretty simple, basic stuff. That's kind of the point of this video. Just wanted to show you guys the basics of the construction set, what you can do with it, and some of the easier things you can modify to, you know, customize the game experience to your own liking. But anyways, that's it for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you found it useful. If you did, make sure to leave a like. I definitely find that useful. And with that being said, I will see you guys in the next video. Peace out. That's it for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, show the algorithm some love and hit that like button for me. Also, don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already to stay up to date on all my latest gaming content. Of course, for as little as 99 cents a month, you can become a channel member and help support the channel monetarily. On that note, I'd like to give a special shout out to my active channel members. Thank you all for your continued support. It is definitely greatly appreciated, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace out.